All right, we're back. Short story long with Jake and Kramer from Movement Watches. I'm really excited about this one. I've been trying to make this one happen for a while. I know we all have. We're all very busy guys, and you guys are just really young, like young hustler, the epitome of figuring out how to really build your own business and do this your own way using technology and your own brain power and resources and like you're it, at least in my head, all wrapped up into one. That's exactly what you guys represent, and that's why I'm really excited because I think it's perfect for this audience. So, thank you both for coming and making this happen.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Long overdue. We've been trying to make this happen
Yeah,
for a while now.
yeah,
So
we've been running into each other, and it's just tough when you're young men out here trying to grind.
totally. Yeah.
I get it.
We're on the west side too in Playa Vista, so
That might as well be another
that
country.
405 traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't want to do it. But
Yep.
we're
I
here.
don't blame you at all. So let's get into it, man. Let's I know that you guys, we just talked about you guys grew up separately, so I don't want to spend too much time like separately going through childhood stories, but in general, uh Jake, where are you from, and what was childhood kind of like?
Yeah. So I'm from Valencia, California, which
Okay.
is about an hour north from LA here, and my childhood was good, but I hated high school. I hated school.
What type of
Uh,
shit were you into?
I played soccer.
Yep.
And other than that, I hated school. So anything but school. I played soccer, and I actually hurt my knee my junior year, and that got me into like playing around with a business idea because I
Yeah.
was injured. I couldn't play soccer. I was in kind of like rehab mode, and so I started this T-shirt business, and
And that was in high school?
that was in high school. That was like 17 years old.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump into that story. I don't know how deep you want me
Yeah,
to
I
go
mean,
there.
I want to kind of try to cover yours relatively quickly and then cover Kramer's and then kind of combine
Yeah.
stories, right? Does
Yeah,
that
yeah,
seem
yeah, yeah.
normal?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, let's get into it. What was it?
So
But can I ask you this first? Did you think that you were gonna be like a sports star in high school? Like, was sports a dream for you, or not? You didn't really know.
I was evaluating everything and anything.
Yeah.
Sports, although I wasn't that athletic, so I knew pretty quickly that wasn't going to be it.
Got it.
But I wanted to be successful in whatever I did.
Yeah.
So I looked at myself and I said, okay, so I'm not going to be the best soccer player.
Yeah.
So quickly decided that wasn't going to be it for me. But I was thinking real estate. I was looking for any opportunity to be successful and make the kind of money I wanted to make, live the life I wanted to live. So I hurt my knee. I was on eBay. I was searching cool products somehow. I don't know how I got there, but there was these light up T-shirts. They're
Yep.
sound activated.
I remember 'em from like the kiosk in the
Yeah,
mall.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
man.
like Third Street Promenade or Universal Studios had them, and I found them. I bought one online and I got it, and it was the coolest thing I had
Yeah.
seen at the time. So I went up to my dad. I said, "Dad, can you loan me a couple $1,000s? I want to buy 200 of these." I found a supplier in China. He said, "Sure, but if you don't sell them, I get your car and I get to sell the car, etc." I figured, all
You
right.
said deal.
I figured deal. There's no way I'm gonna like go over summer without selling 200
Oh
of these.
man,
Right?
talk about early like entrepreneur
Yeah.
confidence.
It was like a loan from the bank that you just didn't want to start paying interest on. So
Yeah.
so I got the shirts and I went to Third Street Promenade. I didn't even have my license at the time yet. It was my friend who drove me down there.
Yeah.
And the shirts pretty much sold themselves. I mean, they were lighting up. I'd go and like clap and walk up to people, and I'd have people walking up to me. And sure enough, people are like, "How much?" I didn't even think about how much I wanted to sell it for. So I just $35, and then I'd make deals for 3 for 100 or whatever it was. And I went every single weekend for summer and sold 200 shirts. And then when I was there, people started asking me, "Hey, how do I buy these online? What's your website?" I didn't have a website. So then I figured, okay, I got to start an e-commerce store. Started an e-commerce store, and that turned in. I actually made a viral video, and started doing $10,000-15,000 of light up T-shirts a week for a couple weeks, like 16, 17 years old.
Do you think all those skills were like just instinctual? Because you didn't. I mean, like, where did you get this weird sort of business instincts?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think
You just went to the next step, the next step, the next step.
it was relevant. I think it was to some degree. It was like it was being street smart and
Yeah.
just problem solving. Like people wanted to buy online, so I figured, it also like I would try and fail at certain things. So
Yeah.
I'd try one thing and it wouldn't work, and so I tried the website. I opened it. I didn't have anyone coming to the site to buy anything, so I said, okay, I need traffic.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like going through the steps and trying to figure out what didn't work versus what did work. So
Yeah.
maybe that's instinctual. I'm not sure.
It's amazing how much like I feel like that's still the battle like today, right? At least with us, like it's that basic like, here's what I need, here's my best idea of how to get it, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like
totally.
that basic sort of plan of action is still relevant in what we do today.
No, everything. Yeah.
What was the video? Was it a YouTube video?
It was right when Kanye West released Love Lockdown. He
Yeah.
did a MTV Music Award live performance, and I happened to have my camcorder connected to the TV,
Uh-huh.
recorded the first 15 seconds, and went and created a 6-second clip of him. This was clickbaity before clickbaity existed. And I had 6 seconds of him, and then cut to me with my shirt, and it was just like, "Hey guys, this is Jake. Buy my shirt," and it
Oh,
lit up the
man.
sound. And I mean, YouTube, how mean people can be on YouTube.
Yeah.
The worst comments about me and just everything, they hated me. But
Holy shit.
I did like 3 or 4 of them. I did Adele too. I did a bunch of them, and there was like, I probably got like 2 or 3 million hits. This was almost 10 years ago now.
Oh,
And I just started selling T-shirts. And I think at the time also I got lucky because Kanye wore a light up heart on
Uh-huh.
during that performance,
Mhm.
and it was like I think he did some type of glow in the dark tour or something.
Yeah.
So it worked perfectly. Like I did one with Adele, it didn't really work. No one cared about light up T-shirts. Kanye worked at the time.
Yeah.
So
How funny. And
yeah.
then what, you just put the link to your site?
Just link to the site. People went to the site, and I just would come home every day. I would actually leave my last class early and come home and just spend the next few hours just like packaging and shipping stuff and answering emails and yeah. So it was just
Oh, that's so funny.
yeah.
I think like Soldier Boy used to did you ever hear that story where like on Napster or whatever he used to label his songs as like 50 Cent and like
Oh, really?
massive songs so that people would accidentally listen to early
Yeah,
Soldier Boy songs?
yeah.
It's like that's a very big strategy, I guess.
Yeah,
The,
it's kind of like the growth hacky,
the
you know,
trickaroo.
yeah, exactly. It's the growth hacky that's how you get started when you're young.
Yeah.
There's all these little nuggets of things that big companies, even at our size, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
consider us huge, but like our size businesses where we don't have the time to invest resources there,
Yeah.
and you can take advantage of that and,
Yeah.
and start that. So
Yeah, that's huge. Were you affected at all by the comments? Like did it hurt your
no, not really. I'm pretty
tough?
yeah, tough skin. I would just
Yeah.
kind of laugh at
I
it.
just think
but-
that's a big thing, man. I think it's something that comes up a lot, like not only with the people I interview, but also young people. Like the comments really like
to them.
hurt people's spirit.
really.
You know, it's like a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. It was easy because I didn't know who these people were.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Facebook like bullying type of situation. It was just kind of strangers who hated me for the clickbaity, and
Yeah.
I knew I was doing. Honestly, if I wasn't selling anything, I'd probably be like, "Sorry, guys," but
Yeah.
I was making money.
Yeah, I
and,
guess you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, I wasn't hurting anyone. So.
That's funny. Kramer, let's run through your story real quick. Where are you from?
So I grew up in like Encinitas, San
Okay.
Diego,
Nice.
like North County. Growing up, pretty typical SoCal kid.
Yeah.
Surf, skated, played sports. Older brother, older sister.
Yeah.
I think something that Jake and I both kind of have in common growing up is we always kind of look for opportunities.
Yeah.
I think we always kind of, like, for me, for example, like I always wanted a go-ped. I always wanted like a scooter. I always wanted a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Like my parents weren't going to buy it for me.
Yeah.
And being, 14, 15 years old, like, I wasn't going to go get a job. So it's just kind of, whenever we could see opportunity to make a little bit of money, I think both of us have always like been just anxious to go for it.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
didn't really have another route to do.
Yeah.
To go. So one of the first kind of things that I did was my sister got her car tinted at our house, like a mobile window tinter came and tinted her car.
Yeah.
And I think she paid the guy like 200 and something bucks. And I watched the guy do it. Like I was always very hands on, like loved doing stuff when I was a kid. So I
Yeah.
watched the guy do it. And it took him like, I don't know, 2 hours. Got paid 200 bucks. Just all the supplies he used was just like film.
Yeah.
So I finally turned 16, or 15 and a half, got my permit. My dad gave me his car and it didn't have tint on it. So I was like, Dad, let's tint this. Like we could probably do it. Like we were both very like MacGyvery and like could figure stuff out.
Yeah.
So we went to I think we went to Pep Boys and just bought like the really crappy tent, put it on there, and did a decent enough job. I was like, all right. I mean, that cost us like $20 in materials.
Yeah.
And my sister just paid the guy $200.
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
Yeah,
I
this'll
feel
work.
like there's some opportunity there.
Decent margins here.
So then I just kind of started getting more into it and just like researching really how to do it, not just like because I mean I watched the guy do it just in person.
Yeah.
And that led to me just doing like close friends and family's cars just to kind of like start to learn more and more. And then I just got good enough where I could like basically by the end of it, like my whole high school had their car tinted by me.
Yeah.
And I think
Did you make like a biz? Did you call it something? And like,
it was
"Yo,
called
what's up?"
Kramers Tinting.
Ah, damn it, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So I had like
perfect.
business cards, and the good thing was like no one really cared like that much about their tint where they like were like, no, I'm not gonna let you do it. I'm gonna go pay $250 to let a shop do it. Like as long as it looked good enough.
Yeah.
They weren't like that, anal about it, so they trusted me.
Yeah.
But I think something that Jake and I both also kind of had in common, kind of how Jake said he wanted to buy 200 shirts, is like we've always found ways to. Like I think the biggest thing with entrepreneurship and like what people always preach is like just go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we've done a great job at that. For one reason being that if we ever see an opportunity to do something, we've always found like a super scrappy way to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, how am I gonna go raise $1 million or like, what's my website gonna look like? It's like for me, so you need a tint to like the film to tint windows. And you could buy a whole roll that was like 50 cars, but I didn't want to invest like $600 into tint because I didn't know if it was gonna work or not. So what I did is I just called window tint companies and I said, hey, I'm a new company, I'm looking to start tinting out of my shop. Can you send me some sample rolls?
Yeah.
So for the first like couple months, all I did was just get sample rolls.
Yeah.
And I basically was tinting cars for free.
It's amazing.
Figuring out how to do it. And then once I was like, all right, I finally know how to do this, and I have like people lined up that wanted their cars done, then I started buying rolls, and like it turned into like a pretty legit thing. But I think we've always done that we can go into that further with other stuff we've done. But
yeah, that's important. And I think that like what's so important for some younger people to understand is like, once again, I also feel like that scrappiness never really goes away,
No.
right? Like I have to believe that like even now when successful tech companies are raising tens of millions of dollars, there's still a scrappy element to raising that much money and to getting the job done. And like I'm guessing, obviously, Travis from Uber is probably one of the scrappiest human beings alive. I'm just guessing.
right.
And he's was dealing with changing the transportation industry, right? And I just think like one thing that I see happening a lot is like young people think the key is to raise a shit ton of money, or like
Sure.
somebody else must have had a lot of money to start, or some big investor. Or where's the money going to come from? Because if I had $10 million, I could get started properly.
Mhm.
And I just think like that is a character trait that I see over and over and over again in entrepreneurs and really anyone that's successful almost on any level, is just that like do it yourself. Like how can I not cut corners, but like how can I get this done another way than the standard easy way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, I think to touch on that, I think that if you have the money, especially if it's your first venture, if you have, daddy's money or whatever it may be, or,
Yeah.
or you're able to raise money somehow, you typically don't know where to put that money. Like you don't know the most efficient, the best way to build a business yet because it's often your first time doing it.
But you have it, so you spend it.
So you have it, and you feel like you have to spend it,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes, especially if you raise, you have VCs telling you, "Hey, like invest here, invest there, do this or that." So I think we've always been very frugal because, yeah, I mean, we've grown as fast as we can in 4 years or so,
Yeah.
and all the money that we've made has gone back into the business, and we've been very frugal with. We need to see an actual ROI on every dollar. If we put
Yeah.
$1 in, we need to see at least 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So for us, yeah, I think I think by being so disciplined in year 1, year 2, and year 3, even like we've continued to, even though we're bigger now, we still have that discipline on a certain level,
Yeah.
and are probably, much more disciplined than the average person who goes out and raises money from day one.
Yeah.
Who has $1 million to go and invest day one. So
Agreed. I think it's just a huge difference in. I don't know whether whether the personality comes first and the environment doesn't affect it, or whether the environment kind of shapes the personality, right? Like, do you get it from having to battle through it, or are you born with it? I don't know, but who cares about that argument? My point is, it's something that whichever way you learn it, the long way or the short way, it just seems everyone has it in common that has done what you guys have done or what we've done, or literally it's almost anyone,
Yeah.
almost anyone who's built a business. Like, you have to think that way, and most of the people who started with a lot of money or started with some super easy break or big investment, or they usually get screwed.
Yeah.
Unless it's their third time doing it and they've already run 2 other companies
Totally.
into the ground.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think with any company, it's gonna start from zero.
Yeah.
Like, you have to realize that it's not like, if you want to go start if you want to start a transportation business like Uber, like, okay, you think of Uber like $1 billion business, people are like, oh shit, how am I gonna start a $1 billion business?
Yeah.
But really, it's gonna start from zero. Like, no matter
Yeah.
what you do, it's gonna start from zero.
Yep.
And if you don't have the scrappy ways to start it, there's always a way to start it that's scrappy enough where you can like get in the door, see if it's gonna work. If not, and I think with less risk. Like for me, like tinting cars, there wasn't much risk there. I tried it out. I got samples, or like I made them send me samples, and if it didn't work, it wasn't gonna work, and I was gonna move on.
Yeah.
But I saw a opportunity, and I tried it to the best of my ability of what I was, what my resources were.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I was gonna. At that time, I wasn't risking anything. It was
Yeah.
my time, and I was passionate about just like finding opportunities to be successful.
Yeah, there's always a next step. That's my big thing, is like there's always like if you're that young person who's saying, oh, well, how do I get investors, or it's like there's something you can do tomorrow that is a next step. It's not 0 to I need $10 million. You know what I mean? I think that's how a lot of people think. It's like, I could do this if I had whatever. And I don't know. I just think that's a cool thing that is big about your guys' story that I think is really important.
Totally. One thing I always tell young entrepreneurs is there's a term called minimal viable product, which is essentially just having a product that is accepted by the market, but maybe isn't the finalized product. And you'll find that Uber, Facebook, like they all have done this, right? Like Uber didn't come out with Uber Eats and having SUVs and this and that. They just had one Uber X or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Or it was even dumbed down before that. I think they just had some type of, it was even easier before that. But even for us, like we come out, we have sunglasses now, and we've come out with women's watches, and it wasn't the whole vision at once. It was coming out with a product, getting customer feedback, understanding what the market likes, because maybe what you think the market likes, they don't like.
Yeah.
If you do it all at once, the chances of you kind of hitting a home run are slim to none. In fact, we've almost never seen the home run effect, like just spend all in this area and it's going to work out.
Yeah.
That almost never works for us. In fact, it hasn't worked for us. I think for us, it's always been slowly see how the market accepts this, have some data to go off of, and then decide if you need to pivot or how you want to go. And there's a bunch of good books on it. Peter Thiel, 0 to 1.
0 to 1.
Yeah,
I just bought that.
Book. Really, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I
great,
haven't read
great
it yet,
book.
but
It's good, like when we get to our stage,
Yep.
to hear ways of thinking and being like, oh shit, that's how I thought without really even reading.
Yeah,
this.
it's huge. Yeah, just to like kind of validate it, and then it reminds you to double down on it next time.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, that was right, and that's
yeah,
why this was right.
It validates it, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then there's another podcast talking about Facebook strategy, and whenever they come out with a new feature, unless it's going to fundamentally change everyone and like could destroy Facebook, I guess.
Yeah.
They usually just roll it out, even if it's not 100% finalized, and allow the users to see what it interacts with, right?
Yeah.
And they use a small portion, but there's 2 billion people on Facebook. They roll it out to 100,000. They get their data, and then they move forward.
Yeah.
So it's not like they have to have this 100% polished new feature when they come out with it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's huge. Kramer, when did window tinting? When did Kramer's window tinting end?
I did it pretty much.
It's still going if you need it.
It could still be going
It'll
if
be
you needed
downstairs
it.
in the garage after.
I still have enough tint to do all my any car that I have or family. I
Have you
guess.
ever tinted your own? Well, no, of course you have.
Right.
Not recently.
No, I did.
You
I
did.
tint all my own
He doesn't
cars.
trust anyone
So
anymore.
you've tinted your car that you drive now.
Yeah.
Damn it, that's amazing. Fuck.
It's easy.
And
Once you know how to do it, it's easy.
window tinting literally seems like the most difficult thing in the world.
It's very tedious,
All those
time
little
consuming.
bubbles.
Yeah, you can get I used to throw my razors across the garage. I would get so mad because you could spend a whole 30 minutes on a window, and the last 2 minutes you fuck it up, and you have to throw the whole thing away and restart.
He won't tint my car though, even if I pay him. So
Why?
He's just retired. He's retired from any.
You
It's
just
his
say,
car.
oh, it's just like, oh, I
his
only do
baby.
my.
'Cause
Sorry,
when,
bro.
when it's your baby, it's like
Yeah,
you know.
it's too
but,
good now to
yeah,
tint anyone else's
yeah,
cars.
yeah.
What kind of car do you drive?
I have an Audi R8.
So even if like 10 years from now you buy like you're just stunting, you buy like a Ferrari, do you think you'll tint your own windows?
I don't know. It depends if I have the
I
the
just love the
tools
idea
that
of
I need at the time.
I think
still.
assuming if it's all in your garage, I'll guess for him. Assuming if it's still in his garage, I think that he would find joy in like.
Yeah.
Just
Can you
doing it.
imagine Kramer just rich and like tan and sort of older, not old, but older, and just in his like Beverly Hills driveway tinting his new Ferrari window?
Well, I also
I
know how
could.
much it costs to do, and then I know how much I would be paying someone to do it.
That's true.
So even if I was, super rich, I'd be like, I don't want to pay this guy this much money.
I think when you're super rich, it's worth it. That's what you get super rich for, right? Is to
Dude.
be like, I will never tint my own
Can't
windows
do
I'll
again.
just make sure I'm getting a deal on it. I'm not
Yeah.
paying full price.
So yeah, where did it go? Did either of you have normal jobs in high school?
Yeah, I did. Pretty much only ever did valet.
I love that.
Like
You guys didn't do valet together.
we did.
We did in college.
We can get to that.
Okay, so high school you started doing valet.
High school, I was doing valet, a little bit of tinting here and there, and then school. Yeah.
And what about you? Did you have a normal job?
My first job I went to apply for was a clothing store in the mall, and my sister stayed behind as I left my resume. It's my first job resume I ever
Yeah.
gave. And I walk out of the store and I give it a couple minutes. I'm like, this is my favorite store. And my sister comes back and says the manager was just talking mad shit on you, just saying there's no way this young kid's gonna he has no experience, he's not gonna get a job here, and just literally crushed me. I'm like, fuck, where am I gonna work?
Yeah.
So the answer is no. I didn't really have a real job. I started that T-shirt business when I was at the end, almost turning 17. So there was hope at the end of the tunnel. And then by the time I was 17, I was paying for that was what I was living off of. So and then my first job was actually the valet towards the end of college.
Got it.
Yeah.
So how did you get to? Okay, so how old are both of you?
26.
Both?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Okay. So then college is next, right, for both of you?
For me, yeah.
Okay.
For Jake, slightly.
What happened? Did you delay?
So I went to college. I went to community college,
Mhm.
hoping to find some type of business career path. I was super excited. Went to SBCC in Santa Barbara Community College, and I was doing book reports and learning just stuff that had no relevance to business.
Yeah.
And I hated my life. I
Yeah.
remember sitting and we were watching a movie. We were watching Into the Wild, and I was I'm sitting in class, looking around at the kids, just I hate this.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to actually, by now my T-shirt business had turned into a larger business. I was selling for if you've heard of EDC or
Yeah.
the Coachellas, I was selling rave lights and accessories, and I had this whole rave light business and
What was the site called?
Nightlife Designs.
That's so good.
NIT Life Designs. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But
So you're so you're going to community college while still running this.
so yeah, I would take every weekend when people would go out in Isla Vista up in Santa Barbara, which was kind of the nightlife for a young college kid. I'd say once or twice a month, I'd drive to San Bernardino from Santa Barbara and promote at these raves, thinking that was going to be a good acquisition revenue source, and it probably was a big waste of time, but it was just showed how dedicated I was to build this business.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was doing this on the side. It was a 6-figure business, $150,000. I had an opportunity to open up a store in the mall. And this is right when EDC and all these things were blowing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you have employees?
My mom was working for me,
Okay.
doing accounting, bookkeeping, and then I had these sponsored influencers at the time who were just light show guys, but no official employees really.
Got it. So you were doing $150 in revenue, just
150K
with
in revenue,
mom's
yeah,
help.
just with mom's help.
That's
Yeah, online.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when EDC and everything was blowing up.
EDC was blowing up. Anyway, so had an opportunity to go open up a store in a mall. I opened up for 3 months to the holiday season. I ended up hiring 4 or 5 people to kind of run the store with me. I ended up doing 50 or 60K in a month. I was like, shit, this is real money. I need to start this full time. So I dropped out of college because I was over the book reports and watching movies and whatever. and did this
At 19, right?
at 19. I was
So
19.
that was one you didn't did you finish one year of
I
college?
finished 1 year of college, but even with that, I was like failing out. So I don't know that I would have been there much longer.
Yeah. So you never even found like you were just hoping for some sort of business education. You didn't find anything.
No, it was all general ed. It had no relevance, and maybe that's my fault for not doing research to what I don't even know what like SBCC, what their best majors are, what they're known for.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go because it was a good college experience. Like it was near the beach. It sounded like fun. So maybe that was on me. But I also had horrible grades, so I didn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
And
if
that
you're not into it, you're not into it. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
What were your parents against that at all? Or no, because they saw you just killing it.
So
with
they
your-
saw so my parents saw the money, and they actually said, okay, this might be something. He's on to something.
Yeah.
So they were okay with it. But 6 months into the store, I had a year lease, like 6 or 7 months in the store, things took a turn, and I started losing money. I had a competitor.
Why?
I had a competitor that just like beat me to the punch.
Got it.
Smarter, they were older, and I had to break the lease like 6 or 7 months into the thing.
That quick, huh?
It went from like crazy good money, people coming to the store, to the worst retail experience. It was in the worst place of a mall. There was like cockroaches around. It was like people weren't coming to buy rave gear, throughout.
Yeah.
Having a rave store in a mall with that type of rent
Yeah.
is the stupidest idea ever.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And I wasn't apparel. It was like it was just the gear. So they'd come in I'd have people come in and they'd buy batteries for like $2.
Yeah.
And that would be the worst. It's like, great, we had 2 sales a day. It was for $6.
Yeah.
So
So it exploded right away. Why? Because it was the first thing in the mall like that. You think?
it was less at the mall. It was more my online store, and that's also another thing. Is like
Got it.
as direct to consumer and online has been such a major kind of disruptor.
Yeah. But didn't you say you did like 50 or 60K at the
Yeah,
store?
because it was holidays. Kids were
Yeah,
telling
just
them,
rave
and then
time.
afterwards there was a lot of people were driving down from like the OC,
Yeah.
and then a store opened in the OC. So I just got demolished from all sides, and it ended up being a blessing in disguise, clearly. And I learned a lot. I learned that how to be more intelligent when it comes to opening up a retail store, and why it failed, and the issues of managing people, and all these.
Yeah.
So
Talk about a lesson. I mean, that's like especially to go from like instantly having some success and probably thinking like you just hit the jackpot
totally,
to like just getting creamed.
totally.
Yeah, good lesson in retail in the United States. too.
Yeah, right. Hey, everyone's going through it.
Kramer, what about you? So you went to college. Where'd you go to college?
So I went to community college in San Diego. Got a place called Palomar.
And what was the goal for? Like, did you have a like a major or like a target in mind, or not really?
No, I mean, I was going to school just because I didn't really have anything else going like at the time.
You guys were meant to be best friends.
Right.
Just
You
weird,
realize
huh?
that? Like
Yeah.
your story is just like the same.
It,
It's fucking. You guys meet and just like, yeah, me too, me too.
I think that's part of why we did this all
That's
together.
so
But
good. Okay, keep going.
yeah, so I knew. I mean, I didn't have anything else going for me. I knew a degree was, important in some way.
Yeah.
If I didn't have anything else I could do, my parents were paying for it, fortunately. So, I was going to community college, just getting a communications degree, just to, have a degree. Definitely didn't like what I was learning by any means.
What are you learning like your first year of
I
communication?
mean, you're still doing like math classes and like, honestly, I didn't. It sounds bad, but I cheated a lot of my way through
Yeah,
school.
yep.
I didn't like it. I
So
didn't
nothing.
enjoy
So
it.
the answer is you didn't learn anything.
Pretty much.
But what is Okay, I'm gonna sound really stupid here because I obviously skipped college. But like communications, does that cover? Like, what does it cover? Like, what do you? If you're going to school with a communications degree, what are you
It's
hoping?
just very
to do?
Nobody
generic.
knows.
Okay, it's just an easy degree. Then.
Yeah.
It's just a way to like say you have a college.
Right.
Got
Like probably the most generic, easy degree to say you have a degree.
I think
Perfect.
I think what it comes down to is people don't like, oh, I don't want to be a math major. I don't want to be a whatever bio major. Like comms is just something in between. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's great. I get it, 100%. Okay, so then what?
So
You hated it.
So I hated it, but I didn't have anything else going for me. I wasn't just gonna go like be a bartender or something. So 2 years at community college, got my AA or whatever it is. Transferred to UCSB.
Yeah.
That's where then Jake and I basically were roommates. Was still going to school, still hated it, but I think like to Jake's point too, like it was just a good college experience.
Yeah.
And again, my parents were paying for it, so I was lucky enough to have that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I think I was just more focused on the outside world and just observing and just being interested in how people were being successful, what the opportunities were out there. Just always keeping my eyes, looking around to what I could do next.
So where did you guys actually meet?
So Jake was roommates with my good high school friend.
Okay.
So he was already roommates. Luckily, one of the roommates moved out, and then I ended up moving in.
Got it.
It was funny. He moved in while I was like in between doing the store.
Yeah.
So like he moves in. I haven't really met my new roommates yet. It was him as a buddy, and like I'm coming back every weekend because like at this point I had a store so I would go during the week and I'd leave on like the weekend.
Yeah.
Sometimes let my team like handle it, and I was just over the store. But it was just funny because like he's seen this like kid who hustles too, coming in all the time, and then finally like I closed down the store and came and moved back to Santa Barbara full time, which is cool. But yeah, totally coincidental that we met.
And did you guys like get along well right away?
Yeah.
But there was no like, obviously no. At that point, you're just two college buddies.
Yeah, I think we both had very similar like childhoods and just like our personalities and like outlook on each being wanting to be successful and like wanting to have our own company. Like Jake obviously already did, and I had like little kind of random things, but I think we had very similar personalities.
Yeah.
I think you find some people who can go the traditional route of getting a good college degree and like figuring it out that way, and then me and him who absolutely hated the system and wanted to figure out, and like we would absorb, talk to anyone, do whatever we could to be successful, and knew that the traditional route wasn't going to be the end all be all. And I think that's where we just kind of clicked and both realized like this is the first time we've talked to a different person, each other, who agreed on that and was just scrappy and have done stuff in the past to make a buck. Like we would talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I get that. Did you drop out before he did?
I dropped out at 19. And
So you dropped out before he even got there, or no?
Yeah, I didn't know him
Pretty
at the time. Yeah,
Jake was just like,
So he was the
be in Santa
dropout.
Barbara on the weekends. Like, what is this kid doing?
He was the raver dropout.
I was a raver dropout. Yeah.
And then how did you finish Kramer or no?
I was about a quarter away from finishing,
That's amazing.
and
So how many years total did you go?
I was like 3.5 years.
Jesus Christ! And you were a quarter away, and what, you just couldn't take it anymore?
To backtrack a little bit, I was, again, like I said, I think Jake and I were both like always super observant.
Yeah.
How are other people being successful, and just always looking for opportunities. So we heard about a kid that was a friend of a friend that had a lot of success on Kickstarter. And didn't expect it, made a ton of money, and was doing super well.
Yeah.
So that got me like super interested, and I had never heard of Kickstarter before. And once I started looking at Kickstarter, and this was 5 years ago, there was just all these campaigns and products and ideas that were just taking off and doing really well.
Yeah.
So like my days, as opposed to going to class and studying, I was just on Kickstarter learning and just figuring out like what campaigns were doing well, how they were doing well, what they were doing to be successful. And I just became obsessed with it. And so that made me start. I had like a little wallet company.
Got it.
That I did. And I launched on Kickstarter.
Was that after valet?
This was.
When were you guys valeting together?
This was like the last year of college, and this was he was doing it kind of at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I launched it on Kickstarter. It basically took off as I had hoped.
What was it called?
It was called. It's still around, actually. I started with a friend. It's called Articulate Wallets.
Okay.
It's basically like a little clever, unique wallet that was like minimal, gave you quick access to your cards.
Yeah.
It was affordable.
And what was the like? How did you do the campaign? Like, was it a video? Like, how did you?
Yeah, so me and my friend, we just filmed a video while we were doing it, what the product kind of, how it helped your daily life. Showed pictures of it, videos of it. Just had like a good, sincere video, and it started taking off. This was like, I think the end of my second quarter of my last year, and I was like had to study for tests. At the same time, I was like making money like I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I just like one day I was like, Mom, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'll go back if I need to go back, because I can, But right now I'm like, this is like exactly what I've always wanted, and I just simply I could not focus on school.
Yeah, that's just amazing. I just love I love the story of when you're almost done and like you just can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the amount of passion for something else that has to be there for you to say fuck this with a quarter left. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Is
Yeah.
like you've spent 3 years just to get this thing, this diploma, and like to be like, you know what, man, fuck it, is like a huge. I don't know. I just really.
I
think
was
that's
even
cool.
like, "Are you sure you want us?" Like I was like,
Yeah.
"Bro, I dropped out when I was 19. Like I was way off from
Yeah.
graduating. Like I was still at a community college. It's like right there, but
I think it's
No, I
also
support it, man. I think it's dope.
yeah.
But I probably would if I was your friend. I'd be like, bro, just fucking chill.
but I think it was different. I think people always talk about like, is it good to go to school and that whole conversation.
Yeah.
I think something that Jake and I and a lot of people I've talked to, if you're really passionate and you have something going for you,
Yep.
I think it's okay. If you're trying to drop out of school because you don't know what you want to do and you don't have anything going for you, and you're gonna go work at a restaurant,
Yeah.
and personally, I don't think that's a good idea.
But let me ask you this question. If I'm 18 years old and I am unclear on what I want to do, but similar to both of you guys, college seems like the logical next step. What do I do?
That's such a tough question.
Mhm.
It's honestly it's hard because I hate seeing people go into debt
Yeah.
to pursuing something that they don't want to do. I think
Yep.
that's a bad decision, right? Like don't go and get a loan and pursue something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Some people are fortunate enough that their parents are funding it and but still like your parents don't want to fund something that is going to have no value or
Yeah.
pay off in the long run. So I don't know. I think that there is a learning process in for students. Like for us being in college, we were able to be away from our parents, be on our own, make friends. You
Yeah.
meet people, right, that are driven. Like to get to this point, people traditionally who at least get to college are usually more driven than others.
Yeah.
So I think you get that aspect of it. It's a growing up time. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say.
Yeah, that's just a tough one.
What?
Like I don't. You have the same opinion?
I
or-
guess there's no right or there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah.
I think you can do it both ways. I guess if you do have the means to go to college, and still have the side hustle.
Yep.
I think that's a good route to go. If you're like you want to be in a certain industry and you can go maybe intern and just kind of like you know for sure this is what you're gonna want to do, and you can find a place to intern and not have to pay for school and you can just learn the ropes from someone that's doing what you want to do. I think that's another great route.
Yep.
But if you're just gonna sit around, then I would,
Yeah, it's tough. I think if it was my kid, I would say you need to go try a bunch of shit. Like you need to go like intern, travel, meet people, like literally just try everything under the sun until you find some sort of direction or passion for something,
for
right?
sure.
And if college can help build on that, then great, we'll do that. If not, then let's carve out a plan of how to pursue this other thing. But I just like I don't know. Now that like with this sort of opinion and all these people that I've talked to now and like my mentality on this, like I don't know how I'll handle it when my child is 18 and is like, do you want to spend all this money on sending them to college with
Yeah.
no goal and potentially just getting them further off of what their goal would have been, or like how do you try to like cultivate some sort of passion? You know what I mean? But I think like you have to start in high school, just giving them weird shit. Hey, you like this?
Yeah.
That's kind of like marketing.
Yeah.
You're into
I mean, I
that?
think too to the point of we have I guess around 30 people in house now,
Yeah.
and we've never cared at all where they went to school.
Yeah.
We care about what kind of value they're going to bring, what they did in the past.
Yeah. Same here.
Granted, they maybe wouldn't have a history of past experience without having a degree to get that experience.
Yeah.
But it's really just bringing the value and the experience that we need.
Yeah, to me, college, for at least for my business, there's a lot of businesses that aren't like this, but for me, it only proves discipline, right? Or shows some level of discipline.
Mhm.
Right.
But like 90% of the people I've spoke to that went to college didn't go for what their degree was,
Yeah.
right? But at least you can count on. They're going to be up early.
Yeah.
They're going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. I feel like that debate is getting bigger and bigger right now, and it's just going to be this huge thing. And
Oh, totally.
like I have to believe that at some point it either changes or there's some big fallout, or you know what I mean? Like something has to
Yeah.
happen. It's
Yeah.
too clear and too known that the just going by the system doesn't lead to success and happiness.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that now, so it's like everyone's trying to figure out.
I think with the internet too, it's just so much easier to find ways to to be successful and make money or figure out how to do it at least.
And it's, you know what else is scary is it's not only easier to do that, but it's way easier to see that college isn't it.
For sure.
Right? So for all the kids even that may have went and actually college may have helped them or maybe spurred them, they're not going to do it either because it's like, I know that's not it, you know? So the one thing is clear is college isn't as promising as it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it just leads everyone to be like, okay, well then what is the thing?
Yeah.
you know?
I think for people who don't know, I think the business side of it, like if I could go back in time, granted everything worked out, but my advice would be if you want to do something in business, find whether it's community college or it's a community college that's near an actual college that's like more business focused, because then you're going to meet more people
Yep.
who are business minded,
Yep.
right? And that at the end of the day could be the most valuable piece of it,
Yep.
more so than what you're going to learn or this or that. I think a lot of stuff in marketing or even sometimes in business now is so outdated with how fast the world moves.
Yeah.
But I think being with people like minded. And then also just self-educating. It's like one of the most important pieces. You have the internet. It's so funny how I talk to, people who are generations older than we are, and their way of thought is so outdated
Yeah.
because they didn't grow up with internet. They didn't
Yeah.
have any other. The only source of truth was
it's
what their
crazy.
parents told them
Yeah.
or what they learned from a professor versus just go read online or
Yeah.
go listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Like even like books. There's a lot of fluff that's put in books, like older books. Now books are written a little differently. There's, again, podcasts. There's online articles. Like, there's so much more out there.
Yeah, it's so true.
So,
It's interesting, man. I really wonder just how it sort of affects long term. Like, how do our kids talk about it? Or do
Yeah.
our kids like is being an entrepreneur for our kids just expected?
yeah. You don't have kids, do you?
No. Do you?
No.
You?
Nope.
No.
We don't worry. I just don't worry about it, man.
No, but I'm just saying, like, for the next generation,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Like,
it's-
they're gonna be like the thought of like college and some system grooming you to be a success is gonna be crazy,
Right.
and the thought of starting your own business or sort of being your own brand, I feel like is just gonna be like commonplace.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so much easier to connect to people. Like if you want to do a certain thing, you can connect to the person online, and hopefully, they give you a 30-minute phone call, or there's just so much easier to connect with people
Yeah.
and get information about things you're really passionate about,
Yeah.
and try to get experience.
Shit, I've came up so much off this podcast simply because I have a podcast to, you know what I mean? To be like, hey, you want to come talk?
Yeah.
Like, this is the type of conversation I would have loved to have with you guys, but just wouldn't have had it,
Right.
right? I would have been like, how's business?
Yeah,
Good. Oh,
totally.
that's cool. You guys went to
Yeah.
college together?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you get 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But like this, now I've built a platform where it's an excuse for me to just soak in so much knowledge from all these different people.
Yeah. My biggest advice to entrepreneurs, I actually just had this conversation yesterday with one, or just not even entrepreneurs, people in college are trying to figure out what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
is go and talk to people in different spectrums of careers and industries, but that are doing something that you may think you want to do or want to do. Because you
Yep.
can't get advice. It's hard for me to get advice from a professor
Yep.
who isn't doing what I want to do.
Mhm.
Even if they're a marketing professor, it's like, you're not doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one thing is go and talk to someone who has accomplished what you want to accomplish, and they will give you their perspective and advice. And you go talk to 10 of those people,
Yeah.
and you'll form your own decision and find like the commonalities or what the differences are.
Yep.
And I mean that's cool. in
And you're
itself.
never gonna find the answer and like have it all carved out, you know. But if something feels a little right, just go down that path,
Totally.
you know. Like, because it'll even you guys like starting those early businesses and starting those early, even I think just programmed in your minds that you could do it, and then you started talking to other people who had done it, and then you started researching and looking up how to get window tint or how to order wallets. I'm sure led to looking up how to make watches, and like all these things just sort of snowball that you don't really think about.
Totally.
And so it's just about like actively following the instinct instead of, I think another big failure is a lot of young people sit around and sort of wait for the plan to be perfect,
Totally.
and if it's not, then they just don't act. I think that's the money thing that we were talking about earlier, or the investor thing, I think is sometimes an excuse for actually just waiting for everything to be perfect. You're waiting
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
money, you're waiting for the business plan, you're waiting for the designs, you're waiting for sourcing, you're waiting for literally everything. Money's just kind of the excuse.
Totally.
Yeah.
It goes back to Kramer's first point, which was just get started or just start trying. Have
Yeah.
a viable product. Like you go and you learn and you figure it out and you talk to people and you form your own opinion on how to how things work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it's not, I think especially at an early age, if you're like 16, 18, like, you don't have a lot of money, if whatever you're trying to do, doesn't have an easy, scrappy way to just like see if it can work or not,
Yeah.
it's probably not a good first thing to start.
Yeah.
You know, don't think you're gonna go raise $10 million and start the next $1 billion company when you're 17.
Yeah.
Like start small. Like if it doesn't work, you're gonna learn from it. But whatever you're trying to do, make sure there's an easy way where you can be like, all right, I can see this, starting to grow over the next, period of months. But you don't need to be a millionaire after the first week.
Yeah, of course.
I think people also
Yeah.
have to understand that they will fail. Like
Yeah.
it's a scary thing to think about, but and oftentimes your first couple like will fail because you just unless you talk to people and have guidance,
Yeah.
even then you're probably gonna fail. I mean, I failed in my first couple, right?
Yeah.
And it was good because I learned what not to do,
Mhm.
if anything. And it was funny. I remember the store closed down. I owed $20,000 to my parents. I was in $5K in debt, credit card debt, and I was like, what can I write down? I thought about this. What can I write down right now for the next business venture? Because everyone's like, oh, you'll learn for the next one. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. No, I'm
Yeah.
not. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't write anything down. And then here comes movement, and there's decisions that come to the table, and I'm like, well, we can't do that
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
did that. It didn't work. Trust
Yeah,
me, right?
yeah.
So it's not necessarily what you write down on paper. It's what you take with you for the actual when you come to like,
The
fork in
next
the road.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
So good. Okay, so you raised a shit ton of money on Kickstarter, right? Like 100 grand or something?
For movement?
No, on the wallet
Articulate?
thing.
Oh, wallets? Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So that was like a huge. Sorry, I'm just jumping back into that part of the story. So that was like a massive success. I mean, were you like blown away that you just raised $100,000?
It's kind of what I expected, just because that's why I did it, and that's I did so much. Like I said, I spent my entire day just researching. So like,
Yeah. So you knew you could do it.
I was pretty confident I could do it.
Yeah. What was the goal?
The goal was like 10 grand,
Jesus Christ.
but that was more just like an artificial kind of what was. It was kind of a strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you launched that thing, the wallet brand, and what was the initial feedback? Was good.
Yeah, I think to Jake's point about a minimal viable product, like our first wallet was, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it got, people at least accepted it, gave us feedback, weren't going to be like, oh, I'm never buying from them again. They're like, oh, it's like, it works.
Yeah.
And then, we did another iteration of it, launched again, we're successful. And yeah, we didn't, put 50 grand into doing this. It was like, let's get samples made, to movements, jumping a little ahead here, but like, we got samples made. We bought a camera from Costco,
Yeah.
a nice $2,000 camera,
Yeah.
returned it. So like our investment, and even for the wallets, was like we weren't risking that much.
Mm-hmm.
We were just getting enough down where we could launch a video, launch a campaign, and have samples where we could shoot them and like show them online.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And then at the same time, so you dropped out of school, launched this brand, massive Kickstarter success. Get me to the valet part. Because I just love the idea of you guys working fucking valet together
Yeah.
5 years ago.
So I started doing the valet before I started the wallets, mainly because I just needed a job.
Where, was it like at a restaurant?
It was at a nice resort, Bacara in
Yeah.
Santa Barbara. It's like a pretty
Oh.
high-end
Is it
resort.
like Kobe.
That's where one of them had their wedding there.
Oh yeah,
D?
D
Yeah,
has one in there.
D
Yeah.
did, yeah.
It would be like Kobe's camp would be there, Michael Jordan's camp would be there, Justin Bieber would roll up. Like it was a weird hotel. It was just like in the middle of nowhere. It was secluded,
Yeah.
and it was on the beach. So you would just have these celebrities roll up, and it was my first job, and I don't know, it was cool. But
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was cool. I mean, I also love cars, so it was like a great place to be. And again, like being around successful people, it was just like I enjoyed it.
And were you valeting like Ferraris and like,
Yeah,
everything?
everything.
Ghosts. And,
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Ventadors, everything.
I just love, like, you guys tell that story a lot, right? You tell the valet story a lot? Because that's a huge, like, hey, we were doing valet together 5 years ago, and now we have this massive fucking
I think the
company.
coolest thing for me is being in the valet booth, and we would be talking about, yeah, we're starting this watch brand movement. I remember this one kid came up to me and was like, oh, and he knew that like Kramer had launched a wallet, and I had another Kickstarter thing I tried that kind of fell on its face, and
Yeah.
but people knew we were doing the watch thing. We were showing pictures. We were very vocal about it. We weren't like hiding it.
So that idea was formed in that time frame, like in that moment.
Yeah. In our last year of college, basically, or last year at Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And
You've been out for
yeah.
years. You're out for
It's
5
just too hard to
years.
explain. I just go at college.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it was very vocal. So everyone there knew what we were doing. And then it actually didn't launch until we had moved home, like a week after we moved home. Everyone graduated, we moved home. But to see like the capacity of like where it went, and we still like friends with a lot of guys on Facebook or whatever, and
Yeah.
so they really saw us talking about it from day one to where it's at today. It's just
Yeah.
and honestly, I've had some of them reach out and be like, honest, you've shown me that like it's possible, like to know actually where you were, to see
Yeah.
now, because like you hear those stories and you're like, yeah, but their dad,
Of course.
owned Microsoft or
Yep.
something, right? Bill Gates, right? Like, or something.
Yeah.
It's just some type of thing that you don't know, or how they launched. And I think this was the first time where our friends were able to really see, like, holy shit, these guys just did it, just continued to work on their craft, and they'd be in that booth just brainstorming about their watches that
Yeah.
they thought were gonna go nowhere, essentially, and to see where it went. And
Is the beauty of like that's what I really try to do here, and that's why you guys are so perfect for this. Is like I think the power of seeing or hearing that even is real. Because I think that part of why when you hear a story like that and you say, "Oh, where their dad is so and so," or they had a lucky break, part of that is because sometimes that's true with some people. But I also think that so much of it is like a defense mechanism, right? Because you don't want to. It's a lot easier to say they had something I didn't than to just say, "Well, shit, that means I could do it too if I tried really
Totally.
hard."
Totally.
And that's a hard thing to accept, that you're just not doing it because you're just not doing it. And I think that like what I love about doing this is bringing it down to like you guys are normal dudes. Like
Yeah.
you're hungry as shit and you're smart as shit, but you're normal dudes who followed step 1, step 2, step 3, and just are still trying to work through it and still trying to build something. And like I think the value of seeing that. I think even had you guys been in that valet booth in Santa Barbara, thank God you were naturally driven. But if you could listen to stories of other normal people who had accomplished it from valet booths and from restaurants
Yeah.
and from whatever, I think that it would motivate people. And I think that's what's so incredible about your guys' story, that I don't know how much you do, but I would urge you to tell as much as you possibly can, because right now with this generation of kids, like you are the epitome of what they all need to hear.
Yeah.
And hear that it is doable without dad's money or
Yeah.
without, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I love that, because at the time, I couldn't find many that had a story that was
Yeah.
so college dropout. Like you hear, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college, but that,
But he's
that-
also
that-
an alien.
Yeah, exactly. So that just it's not relatable. It's like I have no exact skill set. I'm not a great coder, designer. I'm just an entrepreneur at heart,
Yep.
and I don't have any money. Is it possible to be successful? And there wasn't a lot of stories like that. And so I think with us doing it through crowdfunding too, with Movement,
Mhm.
it really told the story of like a lot of people were either trying to do it or thinking about it at the time. And that's why we like to tell our story more and more.
Yeah.
And being so young too is something we want to encourage people to just get out and
It's
try.
huge. It could literally be like your greatest. Like I said, I don't know how much you tell your story. I'm sure you do plenty, but like it's a huge fucking thing. Like it's a huge upside that you guys have, that relatability that like you should really tell
Yeah.
everyone.
No, that's awesome.
Why watches?
So I think it's a few things. I mean, we were both into fashion
Mhm.
relatively. I mean, we didn't have a ton of money, so it was kind of, being scrappy, going online, finding stuff, but we loved fashion. We also really liked watches, and there was like the one accessory that we both liked. I remember like we'd have this shelf he'd have a shelf in his room, and then I had a shelf in mine. We'd have a couple watches on it. And
Yeah.
the thing about watches, where we looked at it and we realized that, like, first off, why are they so expensive? Why was a good quality watch so expensive? And we found them being, anywhere from like $300 to $600 for a good watch.
Yeah.
So we were looking at like different things to come out with, and we wanted to do something on crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. And when we looked in the watches, not only did we realize that they were priced extremely high, but also there wasn't really a brand that we resonated with.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that we realized. Who's a watch brand that we resonate with as our demo? Not something that's super action sports related, or something that's just bland, or something too blingy like some of the kind of older brands that are in a bunch of kind of traditional retail stores.
Yeah.
we wanted something that was fashion forward, aspirational, something that you could, wear out, whether it's with a suit or it was just your everyday watch, kind of wake up, grab a cup of coffee. Like, we just wanted a watch that we could wear every single day.
Yeah.
And we saw kind of a little gap in the market. So also by having a business model selling direct to consumer
Yeah.
on our own website, we didn't have to sell a watch. We didn't have to give any cut to the retailer.
Yeah.
So we could sell, a $150 watch or a $95 watch that our competitors sold for 300 plus.
Yeah.
And I think that was one component of it, but also just building a brand online through social media, having a dialogue with the consumer, right?
Mhm.
Usually you go to Macy's and you say, hey, like, what's this watch? And they go, oh, it's a blank stainless steel. Black. They know nothing about the watch.
Yeah.
For us, if you have a question, you DM us or you message us, or we're doing stuff like this. Like, it's a personable experience with our company, with our consumers, and and that's like the generation, the online and millennial more so generation of how they buy and consume brands. So I think there's kind of we leverage that. So long kind of answer. But.
No, that's exactly what I want. And then, so when you guys were sitting, just for the sake of the story, I'm going to glorify it by saying you're literally just sitting in this valet booth, like hashing out your whole plan. But so you're like, okay, let's do watches for that exact reason. We're gonna sell it e-commerce only. Did you know anything at the time about like Facebook marketing or any of that stuff, or you just knew how to like make an online store?
We hardly knew how to make an online store.
Okay.
It was like, basically it was first things first. It was launch successfully on Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
We need capital to fund the business, to fund like the orders basically. So we set out for a $15,000 goal. Again, that was strategic. It's not that $15,000 would have bought us, the first round of watches, and that would have been it. But it was, so we made $300,000 on Indiegogo, and that was basically pre-orders. That's how crowdfunding works. People give you money for, you show them the samples, you tell them the vision, and then they basically place orders at more affordable pricing than they would.
And you did $300,000.
$300,000.
Jesus Christ! And what do you show? You show samples. You had
so basically you make a video like, hey guys, this is the brand. These are the samples that not even samples. These are the watches that we're carrying. At the time, we only had a handful of samples.
Got it.
If it goes nowhere, we wasted money on samples. That way, you don't have to go and spend thousands of dollars for a full production run of watches.
Yeah.
Like kind of like what I did for the shirts.
Yeah.
I don't need to go ask dad for $2,000 or whatever it was. Like
Yeah.
for shirts, I could just crowdfund it, get customers ordering, and then they just know it's going to take a little longer than typical.
Yeah.
So it's a pre-order.
Yeah.
But yeah, $300,000 was raised, and
Nuts.
once we got there, we said, okay, now we need to figure out a website. So we went and we created a website the day when the day the campaign ended. We had a website running. And it was a very, very, it was like a template, very shitty. It was a pretty bad website.
Yeah.
But it was up and running and just minimal viable product. We didn't spend the time to get this fancy website. It was a few $1,000s. It was a built-in template. We had some outsourced company do it, and that was it.
Man.
So.
When that 300,000 hit, like, were you guys like on top of the fucking world, or were you like, what was the feeling?
I mean, I think for us, just our personality was like, all right, this is an opportunity to. I mean, this wasn't like, we're not like millionaires.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now this is an opportunity. Let's like keep grinding even harder.
Yeah.
It's never. I mean, even to this day, like we still run the company. Like we're, a small 2-person just startup.
Yeah.
It's just like we're hungry to grow. We're hungry to kind of be the best. I think we're both super competitive, and that's kind of plays into it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always how we've thought about it every day. We wake up like, how do we continue to build this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Damn it. I love those moments of like wins or like validation on a good idea. Like we all have them, like those moments when it was like, damn, and then this hit and people started to really like it. And just that moment, because you don't get them very often,
Yeah. I could walk through like just a quick story. So we submitted to Kickstarter, right? Kickstarter is the biggest crowdfunding site, and at the time they had strict rules and guidelines of what you could and couldn't launch, and I think they wanted something very innovative and new. And our watch, which was kind of a play on a minimal watch, didn't cut those guidelines. So they denied us, and I remember driving, and we submitted for an appeal, and they denied us again. I'm just like, fuck, we've spent so much time and money, and this was like, we thought that this could be a $300,000 campaign,
Yeah.
and they said no. And we knew there was Indiegogo, but you go on Indiegogo, and it was kind of like the outcast companies that didn't,
Yeah.
that didn't make it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And I think so. We were a little down on ourselves. We're like, all right, like we're gonna do it, and we're gonna treat it like Kickstarter, but we'll see what happens. And then I remember we launched, and we were going after it, and we made like 15K in the first like 2 weeks, but some of it was like very like aggressive. I mean, we were going on forums, having our friends put money in, so
Yeah.
like we didn't see the potential really of necessarily getting to a huge number.
Yeah.
But what we didn't know is Indiegogo and Kickstarter work a little differently, and like the tail end of the campaign
Uh-huh.
is actually where you make the most. Where Kickstarter, it's typically like if you win, you win out the gate.
Yep.
So
Why? That's how they push.
it's just
different
it's just different
content?
algorithms,
Okay.
different. Yeah, I don't
Got
know
it.
what's better or worse, but we launched on Indiegogo, and we were probably like 3 weeks into it. I ended up going on a planned camping trip with my dad. I have no internet and service for 3 days.
Oh man.
Coming down the hill, I'm like waiting to see. I wonder what we're at. Like probably maybe another 5K. We're at 50K. I get 3,000 texts from Kramers saying, "Dude, where the fuck are you, man?" Like
Get out of the fucking woods.
freaking out.
Yeah.
And then like from that point on, I think we got featured on the homepage. We made another 30K like a few days later, and I just remember looking at my phone, just like order, or it was like emails, basically just money, order, and
Yeah.
so that was like a good holy shit. We actually did this where we weren't sure if we were going to, like dreams were almost crushed
Yeah.
again, and so that was a cool kind of like wow. Now we got to there, and then we started. Although we were happy and stoked, it was like we're gonna need this money that we just made to continue growing the business. So like
Yeah.
we can either take it and say, "Hey, good job,"
You'll go on
or
vacation.
yeah, like
Thanks, guys.
and then but we saw more opportunity, and I think that's as entrepreneurs, you're probably it's like so much opportunity on the table once you
Yeah.
get to a certain point, and you see the reward of like being successful and trying something and seeing it work. So, and that's just kind of how we've been, is
Yeah.
continue to see the opportunity on the table.
Yeah, I get it. It's so cool. So had you guys moved away from Santa Barbara at this point, or no? Or you were-
He was home with his parents. I was in Valencia with mine. So we were kind of for like 6 or 7 months maybe since the campaign launch. We were kind of doing the
How far away are there two?
like 4
4
hours,
hours?
yeah, 3 or 4 hours,
Okay, got
3
it.
4 hours, yeah.
How did you figure out? Like, did you have to go figure out production before the campaign? Is that how you got the samples, or did you once you got the money, then you kind of went and tried to find manufacturing? Because one of the biggest priorities was to have it be affordable, right?
Yeah, so the affordable piece of it was really primarily the business model.
Got it.
It was the fact that we didn't have to price them up to make a profit for the retailer.
Got it. So you didn't have a nightmare of like trying to find like how do
No,
I
it
get
was
this crazy cheap
I
watch?
mean, no, it wasn't crazy cheap. We were looking for like quality and understanding what the market charges for a quality watch, and then finding the best manufacturer and getting samples.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, yeah, so that was a little difficult, but it wasn't that we were trying to find the cheapest
Got it.
person we could possibly find.
Got
by
it.
any means, no.
So it was relatively
Yeah.
not
And
too
that's the
painful.
cool yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about the direct to consumer model is you can
Yeah, it's
that's-
huge.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you can compete with the big guys, is because they need their, wholesale margin, and
yeah.
we're shooting for direct to consumer. So
That's
now with that
great.
said, we still sell we're in Nordstrom's, and we just don't make as much as some of these guys who are selling for $300 or $400. But
Is that like a more of a marketing thing, or you do real business?
it's combination. Yeah, I mean we're doing real business there. They do well. But yeah, I mean I think we still make money.
Yeah.
We have good margins on the product, but we're not making. I think our value of being so much more affordable brings all the customers to us versus buying a
Yeah.
$300 or $400 watch.
Yeah. Who designed the initial? You guys did it?
In the early days, yeah, very collaborative. Just me
That's
and him.
crazy.
Yeah, no Photoshop experience really. It would be like pretty much like cutting and pasting just pictures of watches and saying I
Yeah.
like this component, and like designs and sketches, and just like from scratch really.
Yeah.
And then the manufacturer would come back with digital renderings. So
That's cool.
now we have a designer, thank God.
Yeah.
But
So you move away from Santa Barbara. You launch this thing, 300,000, huge. You're getting the watches made. You like, so when you guys are living separately from each other, are you kind of game planning like, all right, bro, this shit's real. Like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have the Instagram look like this, and because your guys' Instagram is very like its own thing. The way you do the travel shots and the scenic shots and all that stuff, like it's definitely something unique.
Mhm.
And I think like my question is that when you guys started game planning on like, okay, what's this brand look like? What's the roadmap look like? How are we gonna blow this thing up? Or
It was a little bit of that. I mean, more so our number one thing was let's focus on more ways to bring revenue in. We had Indiegogo. Like, how are we going to get the next customer?
yeah,
Right. And for us, it was definitely developing a brand, but we didn't want to spend a bunch of money just on photography. So it was, encouraging people to refer friends. It was, we had a few blog placements. We were meeting with like some blogs, etc. But the first year was it was very like kind of growth hacky and organic. I don't think we spent much money on marketing, if any, at all. It was getting like some press hits here and there and
yeah,
trying to bootstrap it. And our first year we did $1 million in revenue combined with the Indiegogo.
that's
And
insane.
yeah, so it was an amazing year. And then the content started to flow in, and we actually, because we were watches and we were hitting blogs around the world, we actually had a pretty wide we cast a wide net of international customers sending in imagery. Some
Yeah,
of them really, really cool images. So we started encouraging these guys, hey, we'll send you another watch, but just post some cool pictures.
yeah,
And it was always like the modern day gentleman was what we wanted.
yeah,
But in terms of like the content and visuals, that took a little while to get going because it was hard. Instagram was also kind of an early stage, so it was just kind of getting going. But once I think our second year in the business, where we started to find certain photographers we really liked,
yeah,
we really then put like the brand vision together for the men's side, and then built off of who was the movement man, and went from there. And it's evolved over the years too. Like
yeah,
we didn't have it 100% figured out day one. We didn't even know if we were going to be a company day one. So
yeah,
it's taken time to evolve, and I think it's important that the brand always consistently evolves. Like
yeah,
I don't think that we've made it 100%. It's what it is today. I think we have to evolve through kind of e-commerce and
yeah,
demos and
yeah.
social media. So
What was your first biggest like vehicle for talking to the community? Was it Instagram? You know what I mean? Like, what was your first like? Here's where we speak to our people.
it was actually Facebook,
Yeah,
and before they took away all the reach, Facebook
yeah,
and email were probably the two biggest. And we
yeah,
didn't like sending too many emails because like unless we have a new watch, I really don't want to hit these guys with an email saying, "Hey, buy a watch,"
yeah,
because we didn't want to lose our following.
yeah, yeah,
So it was very value only emails, and then we did these giveaways on Facebook to kind of get going. Every 500 likes, we'd give away a watch,
yeah,
and like we just make it a thing, and communicated with them there. We'd get some DMs, some tweets, and just try and engage as much as possible.
yeah,
And at the time, it was relatively easy because we didn't have that big of a customer base.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'd say the first. And then once Instagram, it's funny, we were a little late to the game relatively on Instagram. Like it was always there, but so image heavy, and we wanted to do such a good job that we
yeah,
were kind of like, let's focus on Facebook first.
yeah,
That's easier. We can do text posts, we can do this, like we can kind of game it with giveaways. And then once we got on Instagram, it was like, okay, we got to step our shit up. That's when we hired a couple buddies, and they really started to manage it, and we started to we had one of our employees go and start sourcing content so we
yeah,
can get some content, and then they could kind of figure out the best way to visualize it on the Instagram. So
yeah. And that got a lot of traction pretty quickly,
yeah,
right?
then we started to see success, and we started to see all these amazing photographers who were taking pictures with the brand, and
Yeah, that
who
stuff's so cool.
yeah, who fit like the demo. And it's funny how much it's changed, and there's a lot of Me Too's and copycats now who
Yep.
are so. But we work with some of like the most incredible videographers and photographers, and there's one called Jacob and another Sam Colder. And these
Yep.
guys literally all they do is travel the world,
Yep.
and are some of the most talented. They're like 21, 22 years old too. They're young dudes, and they're just traveling. They've been in like 60, 70 countries, and they're just like amazing at what they do. So we've kind of worked with them, and we hit them up when they were nothing too, which
Yeah.
is awesome. Like we were at the stage where we saw some pictures and like, hey, would you like to work together? And built a relationship over the years.
And did you
Um,
start by just saying we'll send you watches, you send us pictures?
it really depends. Sometimes it was, hey, we'll pay for a post.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was some of these guys just were like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
This is cool.
because like I also think it's an element of if they really want to work with you, like if they're young, if they have a small following, then sometimes you can get content for just a free product. And
Yeah.
they're gonna hustle just as much as you are willing to hustle. And if
Yeah.
it works out, then we'll do something ongoing. Because sometimes you pay people and they don't hit the mark.
Yeah, I'm big on the first option.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of things. We've had huge campaigns where we've paid lots and lots of money, and the people just don't do anything. They show
Yeah.
up for the photo shoot and
Yeah.
leave, and that's pretty much the last
Yeah.
time you see them.
Yeah.
You know, and like then we've had people that we've grown with and built longer term relationships with, and you get so much more engagement and so much more out of like a real relationship. I mean, people can feel whether it was
Yeah.
real or not on
Yeah.
some level. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, I feel like you guys almost invented the influencer game. Like you had literally everyone
that's a
rocking your
huge
stuff.
compliment.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, we would look at you guys and see. I mean, literally every
Yeah.
rapper, every TV personality, like
Yeah, it was just
athletes.
a massive priority of ours. And for me, like one of my issues was I didn't want the brand to be Drama's merch or
Yeah.
Drama's brand.
Yeah.
And so like I probably went 5 times as hard as like what would have been sufficient. Because I wanted it to be associated with all these other people and say, look at all these other people wearing it. Oh my God, so and so came by today and he's wearing it and she's wearing it, and not be. I so badly didn't want it to be my thing.
Yeah, totally. Did you know these people, or was it kind of because you had the TV show? Like, were you kind of going out on a limb sometimes to be like, "Yo"? Like,
Yeah, most of the time.
Really?
And I still try to do that today. And even like with the podcast, like I will say that's one personality trait that I probably picked up during that time that I try to never let go of, because it's really uncomfortable sometimes. And sometimes you feel like you're just going to get shit on,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, I'm just putting myself out there. And
Yeah.
naturally I hate doing that.
Yeah.
But I've learned that it just works, and most people will do the favor or help you out
Yeah.
or come through. Or so yeah, most of the time it was me, and I had a couple marketing guys at that time, and it was just blind reaching out. Or
Yeah.
like my guy would go to the NFL draft.
We
and
actually went. We hung out with.
yeah, with
Fez.
Krager.
Yeah.
And he would literally, he's done that for
Yeah.
like the last 6 years,
Yeah.
and he literally has a photo of probably every NFL athlete
Yeah.
in the league
Yeah.
today wearing Young and Reckless,
Yeah.
because he would just go there and walk around and shamelessly ask everyone to come to the suite and
Yeah.
take a photo and whatever. But
Yeah, it's amazing because he didn't even strike me as like the individual who's like super outgoing or this
Yeah,
or that,
he's
but
not.
but he did like he would have these. We went and stopped by the room, and I think it was last year, the year before NBA draft,
yep,
and there was kids there who we didn't know who they really were, and now they're stars in the NBA,
Yeah.
and they're just like homies with him.
yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, how do
It's
we
so
do
nuts.
this? dude? Like, it's hard.
Yeah, and it's because he's been doing it for so long. And like at first he was, I mean, using him as an example, he came from hitting us up on Instagram, just being a really big fan of the brand and
Yeah.
the show and the whatever, and just kind of like, how can I work? How can I work? And he actually dropped, his story was similar, where he dropped out of college, like I think maybe a year early,
Yeah.
not quite as gnarly as you, but
Yeah.
but he was just ready to work on anything, and he
Yeah.
loved sports. And so we said, why don't you do this? And we kind of taught him how to do it, but he was just
It's epic.
aggressive and just did it. But yeah, it was a huge piece of our thing. But it is something, like I said, when I like still on the podcast, I don't have a booking person or anything like that. I'm just kind of blindly reaching out or asking people to connect me with their friends or whatever. And like I think that's a quality that's like so valuable. You just have to force yourself to go out on the limb and potentially look like an idiot.
It's epic,
You know?
yeah.
But yeah, the we try to keep the influencer thing up, but I just feel like the game has totally changed in that aspect.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, now they have so many brands throwing like money at them that
Yeah.
they almost expect. Yeah, it's hard, man. Honestly, it's.
Let me ask you this: what would you say the like if the previous strategy was sort of blanket everyone with product and just have quantity? What do you guys think like the new strategy is for using influencers for a brand?
It's hard to say because I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of them. Like
Mhm.
for us, we typically have codes
Mhm.
that they post, right? And we want a return on investment.
Yep.
So I think that and if that's what you want, then it's very, very hard to find those people. Like it's a hit and miss. You almost have to go after, 10 of them and then hope 2 or 3 of them work.
Mhm.
And then,
Is
you
it
know,
an engagement issue, like their fan base being engaged?
you know what I
with
think
them?
it is? I compare it to like this is like the modern day display ad. Display ad being when you go on, I don't know, what's a site like Yahoo or something, and you see a bunch of display like flashy banner ads, right?
Yeah.
you're so used to seeing those
Yeah.
that half the time you don't even see them.
Yeah.
And I think now on Instagram, you're so used to, if you scroll down your feed, I guarantee you 3 or 4 photos within the first 10 are going to be ads.
Yeah.
Right. And you're so used to seeing those now, and they're not authentic, they're ads, that you don't interact with them as a consumer. And so I think it's a different day and age where back in the day where we, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when we used to pay someone or do whatever, it was very authentic and people would go and buy and
Yeah,
purchase and
yeah.
or interact with it at the very least. And so I think it's a little more difficult now. So to be honest, yeah, we're still like, we're constantly evaluating, trying to figure out like what the next best move is, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
It's crazy. It's just interesting how much it has changed. I feel like up until semi recently, I didn't acknowledge how much it has changed. Like I just kind of was like, oh, it's Instagram. It works
Yeah,
how it works.
yeah.
But like, it's just crazy because you're right. Everything now is an ad. Everyone's paid. All these Instagram celebrity. Now that everyone's an Instagram celebrity,
Yeah.
right? Everyone has over 50,000 followers.
yeah.
What about what would you say if you're trying to build a brand? Like if you're a kid with no budget trying to build a brand, would you just send it to everybody like how we
I think
used to do?
I think there's enough people. So product is still money. It's still an expense, right? I think you can still find people who have small accounts
Yep.
that will post and be like really love you for sending product, right? So if I was starting off a brand, I would go and find someone with, 15, 20, 30,000 followers that I can build a relationship with, right? Because if you go and give some product to someone huge that it's like a shot in the dark, even if they wear it, you're probably never going to talk to them.
Yeah.
And the chances of you having a relationship is just slim to none. So I see some people who get, a friend of mine has a small company and gets product on some pretty gnarly people, but there's no relationship there.
Yeah.
So it's like cool if they wear it, but they didn't tag you and you're like, it's just, it's not, there's not as much value there in my opinion
Yeah.
versus having someone who has 30,000 followers who this person has influence and you can work with them. So that's probably the route that I would go. But I don't know. I also think that you may want to look in areas where people aren't looking. Everyone's looking on Instagram right now,
Yeah.
right? So there could be opportunity in Pinterest. There could
Yeah.
be opportunity. Maybe there's Snapchat influencers that I'm not even aware of, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we did early on was we found value in areas that like no one was really on Instagram and we ran to Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So like, and then everyone runs there and then it becomes, oversaturated and you kind of have to look in different areas. So I know people who build businesses off of Twitter. So there's
Yeah.
so many different ways to do it.
That's crazy. Was there ever like a big moment? The company's 4 years old or 5?
4 years old.
Was there ever a big moment? So year one, you do $1 million. Was it a pretty like active, steady growth? I mean, I know you scaled really quickly, but did you ever have a moment that was like this explosion moment or
Yeah,
not really?
I'd say the second year was probably our explosion moment. Our first year we did 1 million in revenue.
Yep.
And our second year we did 7. So huge growth, right?
Jesus.
And what we started to do is look at ways to pay to acquire customers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it was Facebook, whether it was Twitter, Pinterest, influencer marketing. So we just started to even Google. We looked everywhere to figure out like where could we put money.
Yeah.
And that was a big like aha moment, right? We were able to see it like data of how to spend, and if this ad was doing well, we'd spend more to it, right?
Yeah.
Started to think more of how to scale a business, and you can't. The most scalable way is some of these paid acquisition strategies,
Uh-huh.
and there's dozens of them, but being able to see results in a specific ad and then put money towards it
Yeah.
is the best way to scale a business, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I love that game.
Yeah,
Just because like for us, it's not nearly as big as your guys, but like at least being able to, for years we did marketing that's like, oh, we're going to do billboards around the city, or we're going to do POPs at PacSun, or we're going to do whatever. And they're all great and they all feel really cool, but there is no way to tell if anything matters at all,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Except for with this, you can literally track everything. And even though it might be sometimes bad news, at least
Yeah,
it's news.
totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least you can stop. I like that part
I
of
also
it.
think that we're building a brand by doing it. I think the billboards and I mean, I would love to do stuff like that. It's just again, right now we're so frugal in where we spend.
And I'll tell you why I do billboards. I've never done a billboard because a billboard is good marketing. I've only done a billboard because being on social media saying you have billboards in Los Angeles is good marketing.
Yeah,
Right. So
totally.
it's like it's not even for the actual billboard. It's
Yeah.
just enough in the right places to say for a kid in Minnesota to say, damn, they have billboards all over LA. They
Yeah.
probably have them in every major
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
When we did a campaign with Meek Mill, we put a bunch all over Philly, and we just wanted it to look like
Yeah.
we probably have
No, that's
billboards
interesting.
everywhere.
That's interesting. It's
So
like
think about that. You can just do one. There's
Yeah.
a good one on Fairfax and
Yeah.
Melrose, and
Yeah.
everyone thinks you're
Yeah.
fucking killing it.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just validation, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that. And I think for us though, it's like, yeah, we have our imagery on social. So on any paid social channel, whether it's Twitter or whatever, like it's not like we're just doing like super salesy stuff. It could be the guys traveling around the world. It could be a guy in, kind of dressed up in some, sick outfit. So
Yeah.
it's not just,
Yeah, it's not just straight up ads.
Yeah,
You're
so it's-
branding as you do
exactly,
it. Yeah, I agree.
exactly.
That's one thing I like about it too, because you're at least like able to spend. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like if you could do one billboard with a photo shoot that you felt really good about, and you're like, this makes our brand look dope, and you
Exactly.
could get an ROI on that billboard, and then do 10, and then
Yeah.
get an ROI. It's like you're paying yourself to market yourself,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And that's one thing that I like about it, as long as the ads that you like are winning and not the really, really shitty ones.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that happens
Yeah,
to us.
that happens
And I'm like,
often.
damn it. Okay, spend more. So year 2, you do 7 mil, and you're fucking pumped, right?
Mhm.
Because the ad stuff starts working and everything just starts clicking. Is that kind of how it?
Yeah, I mean, ads started working. I think we started to see it scale. So we're like, all right, let's invest and hire people.
Yeah.
Like we were also worried, like, is someone gonna want to work for this $1 million company?
Yeah.
And we start to see it take off. So we start bringing on more people, full-time fashion, telling people if they want to join, they have to move out here. So we started building a little squad
Yeah.
and having people investing time in different areas. And really, I think at the beginning it was, we think we can make money if you focus on, social. We think we can make money if you focus on like paid social. You focus on the website, like we'll focus on manufacturing and products and this and that, and
Yeah.
and even the website, and doing stuff like this was just able to help scale. So I wouldn't say it was one thing, but it was starting to invest
Yeah.
in scale,
Yeah.
in the ability to scale.
Did you hire a lot of friends or no?
It was pretty much all friends for the first like 5 people, I think.
What's your thoughts on hiring friends?
I don't know. Do you have a thought?
I mean, I think we did it in a somewhat of a strategic way. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna hire our best friend 'cause he's
Yeah.
our best friend. I think, we knew our friends well enough to know that they can do the task that is needed to be done. I think we were a young, scrappy millennial company, and I think it was somewhat easy to understand who that person was that could, be in our shoes. They weren't the type of person, I guess, that was gonna start a company like we did, but they understand it.
Yeah.
And can kind of put out the content and handle the stuff that we needed to handle.
So you've never had any like big problems with that?
Luckily, no. I think we've had 2 people leave in the past 4 years.
Yeah, I have mixed. Once again, that's another big thing that comes up. Another big question. What I'm trying to also do better on the podcast is ask more of the questions that I get, to have the discussion with other young entrepreneurs about it. But I have mixed feelings. I think that there's a lot of huge benefits to like being around people you want to be around with, and everyone with their goals aligned, and everyone actually caring about seeing each other and not hating the person next to them at when they go to work every day. But there's definitely the issue. Like I've had jam ups of becoming really good friends with people and then them not performing well
Yeah.
and having to have very serious conversations or fire them or
Yeah.
whatever, and then like then your friend isn't your friend anymore, and then, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like it's just this weird thing. So
Totally.
I have mixed reviews on
Yeah,
that.
I think we definitely hired some close friends. I think we didn't want to hire like all of our closest buddies,
Yeah.
because then that puts like the business at risk. That puts friendships at risk. Like
Yeah.
you just don't want that. So we had a few close buddies. Actually, one of our roommates in college,
Got
he
it.
came and worked with us as well, and he's working with us still. And outside of that, though, it was more so looking at, it was like friends of friends.
Yeah.
So it wasn't people that we were directly like connected to. And then
That's good.
I literally went on Facebook and went back to my high school and elementary school days and found like the one kid that I was like looking through trying to find, could any of these people work for me that like I want to do this job.
Yeah.
And then I found him and I was like, okay, he always hustled,
Yeah,
right? And we
yeah,
were
yeah.
friends, but like not great friends, and kind of were distant, and then reconnected, and him and his buddy are crushing it for us. They're our directors of marketing right now. So
That's huge.
yeah.
What's been like the biggest challenge? Is there one that comes to mind, like this kind of the single biggest challenge, or has it just been a bunch of little ones?
Biggest challenge. I mean, I'm trying to think that would be helpful for them more so.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems to me like the sort of the reinvention of having to constantly figure out the new, like that's what it seems like, that's what we're witnessing, and that's what it seems like you guys must have to deal with, is like how, okay, Instagram's great now, and then tomorrow it's, or this type of ad works and tomorrow it doesn't, or video's really big on Facebook now, or
Yeah.
this or that, and like constantly evolving that content um, is a huge challenge of ours, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything that you think people would connect to.
I mean, I think we've been lucky enough, but I think a big reason for that is we've done a great job at networking and connecting and going to dinners, getting drinks, learning from people.
Yeah.
Where we've really been able to minimize our mistakes by talking with people that have done it before.
Yeah.
People that are, own bigger companies, like helping us hire people. So I think we've done a great job at meeting people and having friendships with people that has really helped us grow.
Yeah. You guys are good at that.
Yeah, and just minimize a lot of the risk and problems that we could have had for sure. But any like big.
I don't know. I mean,
That's good. I mean, you don't have to have one.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
No, I think, I mean, one thing just like starting off is like understanding. We always had inventory issues with running out of stock and not having money, like the cash necessarily, just because it was tied up, or we were waiting on inventory to come in, whatever it may be. So understanding that you do need cash to grow a business, or just grow it slower, like, which is a good issue to have, I guess. But for us, we were 1 to 7. Like there were times where we were out of stock for. There's been times in our business we've been out of stock of a SKU for like 2 months, right? Like just really, really bad customer experiences. Kind of good for us because it's means that there's demand. But so I think that was an issue. I think also something that we're always trying to figure out is, fortunately for our brands, like we're all our companies are the demo that we're selling to primarily. So, and then being in LA is like, sometimes we don't realize it, and it's taken me a while to realize it. We're in such a good spot for the reason that we're in LA, and being able to be around the demo as a whole, and being in such a aspirational place, and then also be able to connect with other entrepreneurs or other marketing or operation, whatever it is, execs that are in this town. Like there's a lot of successful people in LA.
Yeah.
So I mean, same with like New York, San Fran. There's other areas in the world that have it as well. But LA is just a great hub, and people are always flying here. So I think for us, it's just making sure that that as we grow the brand, that we're not losing sight of things. But and it's a challenge because you're always trying to like stay up. Similar to Instagram, how things are changing, or like what's working. Is it Snapchat now? I think we just want to make sure that we always have a good finger on the pulse for like what we're doing, who we're hitting, and not be naive to think that, oh no, we've been doing it. We've been doing it for the last 2 years. Like you stay complacent, and that's how you fall down. So
yeah, that's huge. With the with the speed and the size of the success you guys have had, I wouldn't. If you just went and stopped giving a fuck what anyone thought, I wouldn't really be mad at you.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. How long have you guys been around for?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. But you guys just did. I mean, you just did such a good job going fast and big and smart, and still safe, and it doesn't feel crazy or reckless, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But you just scaled quick, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Like the way you did it is very.
Yeah. I mean, how have you seen, like, you've been around for 8 years.
Yep.
Styles changed.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Oh yeah.
how do you stay up? And you went through probably, when you guys launched, was Instagram even around by then?
No.
Yeah. So like you started with a brand. Like Instagram's a good data point too now.
Yeah.
Like, you can go on and like swipe all day and see what people are wearing, or like go on Snapchat and see what people are wearing right now.
Oh, it's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you kind of stay up to speed of like
Well, here's what I'd say. That's a like a huge thing that I try to remind myself is, when something changes, like jump on it right away, because like how we said, how Facebook will test things, right? You do it in a safe way, where if you're wrong and that thing isn't actually going to work, then you still have like the rest of your company. But my point is, I now have seen things change so many different times, and what I've noticed is a lot of the people that win are the people that were first, and they were usually first because they didn't know any other way or have any other option. They came in under that platform, right? And so when you're a bigger company, what happens all the time, what's happening now to all the older companies is they're getting the shit kicked out of them by this whole new industry because all these people jumped on the internet and they were too slow to do it, right? Like mattress companies and all these different,
Yeah.
retail as a whole. Um, so what I would say is like you have to be aware that things do change. The way you're doing it now is not the right way forever. Um, and the moment you see something proven start to work, like you have to be really, really aggressive and act like it's the first day of your company all over again.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a pride issue, and there's a like, we've been doing it this way, and the whole model of my business changed. When I first started Young and Reckless, it was to give a streetwear type company to mall retailers because all the streetwear brands were too cool to sell to malls, right? So growing up in Ohio, you couldn't get Diamond or Crooks or any of these brands. So I'm going to create a brand that did similar marketing but didn't have the pride and would sell to every mall. And I want to be massively distributed,
Yeah.
right? The problem is that's no longer a business model. That's gone. If somebody told you that tomorrow, you'd be like, H&M makes streetwear. What are you talking about? So now it's to make affordable, on trend, good looking clothes with a strong brand behind it, and it's literally an entirely different business model or plan, but that has slowly evolved as things change. You have to continue to be clear on what it is you're even doing, what gap you're filling,
Yeah.
like the gap for you guys, you saw the gap and you took huge advantage of it. It could change in 5 years,
Yeah.
and your whole plan, your explanation of what the business is would change with
Mhm.
it. But you just got to be aggressive. Like you can't. It's so easy to have success and just be sort of complacent and be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, Instagram's blowing up. That's cute,"
Mhm.
and like
So did
little
you
do you
jump on
know.
these? Did you personally jump on these things, or did you kind of like test the water and then realize, okay, this is working before?
Yeah, I think that early.
Sorry, I'm more asking for
No,
us.
no, I
Yeah.
like it. No, no, I like it. This is good.
Yeah.
I think that early I was probably a little slower, probably, you know, feeling ourselves a little bit and felt like I didn't have to. Also, I've always had a decent sized following. So you get this extra sense of like, well, I can do what I want on my own time. I don't need to be first on this thing.
Mhm.
Now, I would say that I learned that lesson years ago, and ever since then we've been very aggressive with trying everything right away. Um, but also one cool thing is I've always had that leverage of a fan base. And that's why I would say another big lesson is build a fan base that actually follows your brand and likes your brand, because even if you are a little late, they'll still go with you,
Hmm.
right? But if you're just trying to go and try to be the king of every new platform, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So for me, if I was late to Snapchat, but I made it 6 months late, it wouldn't be a death sentence because we had a following, I had a following, and we could build it pretty quick.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I've never taken ourselves too serious or been too cool for it. I'm trying to figure out how to do vlogs now,
Mhm.
and I think it's miserable. And I think that pointing a camera at your face and
Yeah.
be like, "Hey guys, what's up? It's me," like is stupid.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the more that I do it and see what my voice is with inside of a vlog, the more it makes sense, and I get it, and I
Yeah.
understand why people would want to watch it. But
Yeah.
for me, it's how do I create value and how do I actually give tips or give lessons without sounding preachy or sounding like a know-it-all,
Yeah.
because I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with saying that that's why I do a vlog. If I do a vlog because I think so many people care about me pointing a camera at
Yeah.
myself all day,
Yeah.
I would start to question who I was as
Yeah.
a human
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
But it's just about, if it's
No, that
working, you
makes
can't
sense,
be
dude.
too cool to give it a shot,
Yeah.
But the clearer that you are on your brand's message and the bigger following that your brand actually has, the better off you are, because then when a new thing comes out, you know exactly what your voice is with inside of it, and you know that you have a fan base that'll follow you there.
Totally.
You know?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's next? You guys are doing sunglasses now?
Sunglasses. So we're building up. We started as primarily a men's brand.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been building our women's brand. We're coming out with some more women's watches.
How was that initially received? Well
Um,
or tough?
I think it was better than maybe we had hoped, but there's been struggles because it was a lot of guys trying to figure out what girls wanted, and
Yeah.
that's always tough.
Yeah.
Um,
Like gifts? Is that
just
what you're saying?
just
Oh, you mean like
designs,
the company? Oh,
just designs, yeah.
got it. I thought you meant the buyers. The customer.
Yeah, the customer. We didn't. It was just hard. So,
Yep.
but we've done well. I mean, we have a good structure in place of we can hit women with women ads and or influencers and like kind of try and spark the product. But I think as we've been doing it for a little bit more now, we're starting to come out with some really cool stuff that look, some of the women in our office are more heavily involved with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then we're also doing more sunglasses, just building like Movement started as a watch brand,
Yeah.
and we're fastly growing to be a lifestyle
Mhm.
brand, right? Like we don't want to just be watches. It's more than that. So yeah, we're doing another category and a new product category in a couple months. So
Yep.
kind of keep it on the hush hush for
That's
now.
cool.
But yeah.
What about longer term for both of you guys? I mean, you're natural sort of entrepreneurs, and obviously you have such a passion for just building a business in general. Like, do you see building Movement for years and years and years, or do you see building other businesses, or like what do you see for yourselves, or is it just kind of see what happens and go from there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been fun. It's been stressful, but to get to where we're at now and to still get to a point where like we see so much opportunity, I think by growing the business that we've grown to date and being bootstrapped and really
Yeah.
frugal and being in LA and the relationships we've made, we're in such a prime spot to continue to grow this brand to like where we want it to be. And we want this to be $1 billion global lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have our eyes set on.
Yeah.
So I think, and it's fun. I mean, we work with a lot of fun people, a lot of, smart, successful people. We get to do stuff like this. I mean, maybe I'll take a couple more vacations here and there, but like, cause it's been hustle,
I know,
like
man.
fight
Yeah.
to survive. But,
Yep.
I don't know. I really enjoy what we're doing and I enjoy the team that we work with. And until that changes, which I don't think it's going to, I just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I think being an entrepreneur at heart and always kind of looking for opportunity, I think Jake and I both see so much opportunity for Movement in
Yeah.
the next X amount of years that our time and power is best spent trying to grow Movement and not trying to grow something else.
Yep.
Just because we're kind of, we feel like we're onto something. So it's
Yeah, I
fun.
agree.
mean, you wake up every day excited to continue to build, and it's exciting and
Yeah.
stressful at the same time.
Yeah.
But, it's all gonna hopefully pay off one day.
And you guys have still done this all. You haven't taken investment.
No investment.
That's so
investment, yeah.
crazy.
I think also like there's a paradigm shift right now with bigger brands that are grown and built through wholesale channels
Yep.
who don't jump on like, okay, we got to do it direct to consumer or social media. And even though a lot of these guys are still, they have the wholesale or they have the retail stores maybe or the wholesale relationships globally.
Yep.
So they're still doing, hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that we're structured and in a place to disrupt that.
Yep.
And I mean, we're 4 years old. We'll do $80 million this year in revenue.
It's insane.
I think there's a lot still left to be done. And for 4 years and in a limited team, like, I think we're doing a pretty good job. And,
I also believe like part of it is like a waiting game. It's what you're saying, but it's like a waiting game of like there's so many of those old businesses eating up hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to crumble.
Totally.
Right? They're not going to do what you guys are doing. They're not going to adapt. They're not going to whatever. But it's like you just have to wait. Which I don't like that answer.
Yeah. No, it's because they have like they have so much money in the bank but I think I just see what other big brands are investing in, and I go, that's a really I would not have, if I had that money I would not invest there.
Yeah.
So like to see that happen over and over and over again, I feel pretty good about it because I feel like we still have an edge, and I try and hear why they're doing it, but I feel like they're just trying to spend to get out of this grave. And
It's shocking how many people just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. It's just different industries, and it's like, they're just being, not outsmarted. It's just a different world now with retail and social media. And again, being the demo in LA, having the relationships we all have here, like it's so pivotal to the success that we've already had and what's going to come. So
Yeah, and I think that like it's all such just this old it's this crazy, crazy old mentality. And it's almost like the more that things change, the more that people don't want to believe that they're actually changing, right? And so like the more you kind of hold tight to the wrong belief system
totally,
because they're changing even quicker and quicker and quicker. And you're like, no, it's going to come back because that's the only answer. The
totally,
answer can't be we've been wrong all these years. It has to be it's going to come back at some point, which
totally.
is the exact worst thing that you could possibly do. And I think that there's so the transition is going to take it's happening faster and faster every day. It's not slowing down, it's not anything. And I think that because of that fact, we're in this limbo period of the world or old money or old retail or old whatever accepting that it has changed. So you guys are the pioneers and brands like you and 5-4 and those guys are the pioneers of sort of this new way that business is going to work or what's going to take the place of retail. And everyone, all the older guys are holding on to the
Exactly.
what they want. And I think once that shifts, it's going to be a really brutal shift and a really ugly shift. But I think that once it does shift, that's when it's going to be a whole different ballgame for people like you.
Totally.
And, for those $1 billion,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's
Because people are just holding on to it. They
Yeah.
don't want to.
and I think like to your point, it's time, man. Like it just unfortunately like sometimes it just takes it takes a few years of just really poor performance or losing money for some of these people to either some of the execs will jump ship or some of the people
Yeah.
or just even retail as a whole is like it's tough right now. So and I think as we get bigger, brands like us get bigger and we're doing more creative stuff and connecting with more people, like we're just going to continue to take away business from
Yeah.
the big guys.
Could you ever see doing a movement store?
Yeah, potentially one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's if done right,
Yeah.
it could be done well. But yeah, we would have to really put some thought into it because
Yeah.
we don't want to just half-ass it.
Yeah.
Have you guys done a store?
No, we've just done like pop-ups in a showroom, but I
Yeah.
do think 100% there's like a place for it done the right way.
Totally.
Like if I could do anything, I would probably put some sort of crazy cool experiential store at like the Grove and in Orlando, Florida, and like in Vegas,
Yeah.
like where there's travel destinations where it's families, it's our demographic, and it feels really, really cool to even go in there.
Yeah.
I just don't even know what that would be,
Yeah.
or and like how could you do it where you maybe don't sell any clothes
Yeah.
and still it's worth it, or you sell next to nothing. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I think that's treating them like pop-ups or treating them like showrooms. I think would be the only thing that makes sense to me.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I can't imagine ever like a big retail strategy.
Yeah. No.
Even though real estate will probably be real cheap. So.
Yeah. Hey.
This is my ender question. If you could, I mean, you guys maybe you haven't had the business that long, but you've grown it an insane amount and you've been through a lot on the way to do that. And you've obviously been through a lot in your own little, like starting the smaller companies and your journeys. If you could go back to the younger version of yourselves, let's say 15, high school, before you even took your first shots at being entrepreneurs or before any of that, and sort of tell, especially you guys, the reason why I like it so much is because you had these like hungry brains, like ready to get into the game. I guess each of you, what would you tell that younger version of yourself to like sort of get a head start?
That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, I think kind of like you said, like we did it, but I think always be super curious, always be kind of observing what's going on. I think I was thinking about it on the way over here. Like, I've always loved cars, and I always loved going to car shows.
Yeah.
I'd see like my dream cars there, but what I liked more than just seeing the cars was like I was always so curious on who the person was that owned it
Yeah.
and how they were able to afford it.
Yeah.
And like I would literally go up to people and start talking to them, and I just always trying to learn and observe and just understand how people that were successful, how they got to be successful.
Yeah.
And just keep, seeing different opportunities, and just continue to network. Like Jake said earlier, try to get a phone call or a coffee with someone that is in a position where you would like to be one day.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I'm fortunate to be in a position where a lot of it worked out, and like I'm really happy with taking the risk on so many different, you know, companies and dropping out when I did. So like I feel like I did good in that sense. If I could go back to high school though, you know, I think I would just want to, I would want to network more because I really didn't do that when I was that young. I was
Yeah.
so scared of just someone telling me, just like laughing at me or
Yeah.
like not thinking, like just not taking me seriously.
Yeah.
So just networking more. I also think in networking with people who have done relatively like again a direction that I want to grow in.
Yeah.
I also think that anything from like some of these math classes or like I don't know if there was accounting classes in high school, but just relatively like basic fundamental skills that I maybe kind of even cheated in sometimes or
Mhm.
didn't take seriously. I wish I would have taken it a little bit more seriously just
Yeah.
because I think certain skill sets, like no matter what you do, even if you win the lottery and just want to like control your own life,
Yeah.
like you're still going to need to know these certain skill sets better. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think I could have self-educated myself more. So I was doing like video editing and Photoshop
Yeah.
on my own just to kind of play around with,
Yeah.
which in result helped me launch businesses because I didn't have to pay someone to do graphic design and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was cool, but it would have been cool to like understand how to do a little bit more on the accounting side or just understand math a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because I think that goes across multiple, your personal, your business life,
Yeah.
and various others. So.
I agree. What about tell everyone where to go? The social media, the site, any plugs or drops or any of that
Yeah,
stuff?
mvmt.com or just at MVMT. You can find us
Easy.
on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, man. We fucking did it. Thank you guys for making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
That was great. I love this one. This is going to be a really good one. We're up tomorrow.
Sweet. That's fast.
Thank you, dudes.
Yeah, thank you.
Later.